Hey folks, we are in Israel. This is the apartment we're renting in Tel Aviv. We are leading a tour which starts tomorrow, the InGrace Solidarity Tour. We come a little early to try to acclimate to the time zone and also to do some setup work here while we're here. But what we're going to do today, since we have a couple free hours and we have some people that are with us that have never been to Israel, I want to take them on a tour of Tel Aviv, and I want to show them a little bit about this city, which is not an ancient city. We're standing in a really tall, kind of a skyscraper, beautiful apartment buildings. Off in the distance, you can see the Mediterranean just stretching out there as far as the eye can see. It's a beautiful sunny day. So what I want to do is take you and take our new guests to Israel, Ryan and Sydney, on a walking tour. We also might rent scooters, so we'll see how that goes. We're starting right here. We're staying very near the Tel Aviv Mall. I want to walk over to the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. The Tel Aviv Museum of Art, as you might know, is the location of Hostages Square. I want to see what the status is of that. Since Ron Gavili has been returned, his body has been returned, all the hostages have come home. I've also been in communication with a former hostage to try to meet them and talk with them a little bit, interview them. So stay tuned for our future InGrace episodes. But I want to go see what Hostages Square looks like. So we're going to take you on a journey there, and that'll be about a 20-minute walk. And then we're going to go from there to a place that I can see from here, which is a place I've never been to. It's called Habima. Habima. I'm like, Bema sounds really familiar. Ha is the, so we have the Bema. So that sounds familiar because I read in the New Testament about the judgment seat of Christ, or the Bema Seat. So I looked it up, and it literally is the stage, the platform. This is the National Theater of Israel. It started in Russia in 1917, and they've moved it here to the heart of modern Israel. This is a modern city. There is an ancient part of the city, which we're going to take you to at the end of our walk today, Joppa. And certainly that was here in the time of the Bible. But all of this is new. All of this is indicative. When you see a city that is so big and modern and big buildings, you're seeing a successful country. And that's what the Jews have brought to the Holy Land. The Jews have made this land prosper and grow, and we're in the heart of the financial and the technological areas of Israel. So we're going to go by the theater and talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to walk to what's called the Carmel Market. So that's down right over here, and we're going to go walk around and show you what that looks like. And then we're going to take you on a walk to the beach. We're going to start at Aviv Beach. So you have Tel Aviv. Obviously, a Tel is an ancient mound, so this is named after that. So we're going to walk along then the beach, the promenade, all the way to Joppa, which is where we'll have lunch. And it's a beautiful ancient port of Joppa. So you kind of get a little bit of a lay of the land. Let me show you actually out here. You see that big square building. It's a big white square building. And that's the theater, National Theater, or the Habima. So we're going to go there. First, we're going to be going to Hostages Square, which is to the right of that. You really can't see it. And then we're going to walk all the way to the beach through the area called the Carmel Market. And then we're going to walk the beach all the way to Joppa, which is just over there. It should be a lot of fun. And we're just going to go see what Tel Aviv looks like, what Israel looks like since Hamas has been defeated, although they still haven't disarmed. They're negotiating that, but all the hostages are back. Like, what's Israel like now, especially now that Israel is still currently under the threat of Iranian attack, because the United States is amassing an armada and a force to potentially attack Iran. I'm not necessarily excited about being in Israel again for such an event. We were here in June when that happened before, but if it happens, it happens. And but I want to show you what Israel's like today. A lot of people think Israel's a war zone and it's dangerous. And hey, you're going to see today normal life, people going about their business, and that's Israel. Amazing thing about Israel None of this was here 100 years ago. Neither was Hebrew. So as people walk by and you hear them talking, all of Hebrew, this and that, it's like that language wasn't around except for like in synagogues and worship. It wasn't spoken by people. It was used in like prayers and stuff. For that to revive is part of the miracle of Israel. It's not just that they came back to their ancestral homeland that God had promised them, but they've also revived a dead language. I mean, that's never happened in human history, neither of those things. For over 2 years, this square was populated all the time with people that were advocating for the release of the hostages. Families, just citizens, they would amass here, and it's become known as Hostages Square. Each of the kibbutzim that had people that had been taken hostage had like a little tent here, and they would man it all the time to tell people about the individuals that had been taken from their kibbutz. Now that all the hostages are back, it was just a few days ago, Ron Gavili was returned, his body was returned, the last hostage. I was just curious, what this looks like now. So we're gonna go take a look at it. That's a lot different, which is good. That's gonna be the question for Israel is what do they do now in memory of the attack? But certainly they'll have memorials and stuff. They'll be building big things. So this will slowly, I think, just go away completely. It's pretty much gone. This was just full of memorials and art and a piano, and the piano's still there. They had a countdown timer. I'm just happy to see it like this. I really am. Going back. Oh look, Omri Moran has a sign. Let's go look at that. We're hoping to meet Omri soon, holding his daughter. Little girls that were traumatized in the attack, but they fortunately left the girls and Lishai, his wife. Well, that's beautiful. I'm so glad he's home. This is an interesting sculpture that was here before all of this with the hostages. So you guys have any idea what biblical story that might be? Okay, Abraham and his son. So that was the binding of Isaac. That's the ram that was caught in the thicket. That's Abraham and Isaac. The binding, right? That's what Jewish people call the story, the binding of Isaac. And so I think it's amazing how that illustrates the binding of these hostages and how they were free, they were unbound. Isaac was unbound and they were all freed in return. So I think that's interesting and very symbolic. Well, how about something a little more enjoyable than thinking about the tragedy of October 7th? Scooters. You guys in for scooter rides?
Yeah, let's do it.
Instead of walking 6 miles, we can walk a few and ride a few.
Totally.
The problem with these scooters that we're going to reserve are lime scooters, which they use the lime color, and the helmets are lime green. Well, we made it, guys, to the National Theater of Israel. And if you could read Hebrew, and I can't either, but I know that says Habima. So when I heard Bema, I thought of the Bema Seat, right? And when we read, I'll just read the verse in 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. That word judgment seat, or the word seat, is Bema. And that's a Greek word that talks about an elevated platform that a judge would give a reward to someone that achieved, usually like an Olympic sport type of a thing. And Paul is saying, hey, we're all going to have to be coming before Christ who's on that platform, and to think about how we've lived our life. Salvation is by grace through faith in Jesus, which is free, but he does expect us to yield to him and grow and do the things that he's wanting us to do. So I just find it fascinating that they named this Habima, which is the Bema, and it's the stage, the platform where they do their theater here. And what's really interesting is this theater started in Moscow. So like 1913 to 1917, it moved here, and then it became the official theater of Israel in 1958. So they became a state in 1948. Very significant place that we're standing here today. Again, just kind of showing forth the modern people of Israel. We made it. We survived. We made it to the Carmel Market, which we're going to go explore. It's an old open air market settled by the Yemenite Jewish community. And it's pretty cool. We'll try to find some lunch. So what about the scooters? You guys think thumbs up?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
You don't have to walk. Come on. That's
It's so fun.
Beautiful.
It's a little tricky with the urban environment. You have bikes and cars and people, but hey, it's
That
fun.
was so awesome.
It's a fun way to see a city, especially here.
Yes,
Totally.
definitely.
All right, let's go find some lunch. We're in the ancient port of Joppa. So just go back to your childhood and remember the stories. Of course, there's one big one that we tell the kids a lot that happened here.
Jonah.
Jonah,
Got that.
right. So Jonah wasn't real happy that God wanted him to go to Nineveh, which is way north, not on the ocean. And he's like, I'm gonna go the other way. So we all learned a lesson when we were kids, like don't go the other way of what God says, because he ended up getting swallowed by a great fish, vomited on a beach. We just walked along a beach, and that's Tel Aviv. And that's just a beautiful modern city. And to me, that just shouts Jewish life. Am Israel Chai, which is the people of Israel live. That to me is proof positive of that. When Jesus was talking about Jonah, this is Joppa. So when Jesus said, just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale, 3 days and 3 nights, so I'll be in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. That sounds like such a whale of a tale, but Jesus, no, he verified it. So, and that was an important picture that Jesus would be the one that would go the right direction to save us. And he was in the belly of the earth. He did die, and he was buried for 3 days, rose again. That message of the gospel came here because Peter was here. You remember in the New Testament, the Bible says that Peter was at the house of Simon the tanner. We don't know exactly where that was, but tradition is right here. And he was on the rooftop, so you can see some of these rooftops. And he was hungry, and he could smell the food cooking, Oh, it smells so good. And then he falls into a trance, and there's the sheet that comes down from heaven with all sorts of animals, clean and unclean. God said, eat. And he's like, no, I've never, ever had anything unclean. And God said, don't ever call unclean what I've called clean. So the message is not necessarily that we can have pork chops, although I kind of think it does mean that too. But it's much more than that. It's the gospel is going to go to the Gentiles. The gospel is going to go from here way up the coast. So look way up this coast. As far as you can see, there's a smokestack way out there. Way out there, a little bit further is Caesarea. And that's where Peter brought the gospel up to Cornelius. But tons of significance in the Old and New Testament here in Joppa. And check it out, we found it. Simon. So Simon the Tanner, obviously this is probably more traditional, not authentic, but we know somewhere right in this area. But just imagine that. What was Simon? The tanner is somebody tanning skins, and they would have been used that for leather, parchment, things like that. So, but you're also kind of maybe smelling some of that too. I'm sure it wasn't a very pleasant smell to, tan leather and all of that stuff. So you had a lot of aromas going on with this story. But again, Peter had a real aversion to ever even going into a Gentile's house. It just wasn't done. They just didn't do it. They don't want to be unclean, but Christianity isn't like one nationality or one thing. It's available to all people around the world. So that, God had to find a way to convince someone who was very orthodox in his faith, Simon Peter, to say, no, we're gonna bring the gospel across the world. So Peter was the first one to bring the gospel to a Gentile. Officially, of course, Jesus did too. Jesus brought the gospel to Gentile cities. But the first disciple to do it, and then eventually Paul became the apostle to the Gentiles and would actually bring the gospel across these waters, across the world. All started right here. So how would you like your tour?
Fantastic.
Do you guys tip the tour guide ever?
Yes. I left my shekels back.
Okay.
But I will get this.
I would never take anything from you guys, but it's been fun to show you your first site in Israel. Yep. And you're standing in a really biblical site. So you have Old Testament and New Testament here. Now, you don't always have that at every site. Some sites are both, most of them are one or the other. But here in Joppa, it's both, and both significant, I think, sites that do tie together. Because you have Jonah going the wrong way, Jesus went the right way. He was in the belly of the whale. He brought salvation. Jonah brought the message of salvation to Nineveh. You better turn from your evil ways, you're gonna be destroyed. And they did, and he was unhappy about that. But Jesus comes and says, listen, we're all sinners, and the penalty of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. He told Nicodemus, who was a very good person, that he had to be born again. And Nicodemus says, what is that? And that's the message that Peter would bring to Cornelius. You need to trust Jesus because we're all sinners and Jesus wasn't. He was the only perfect human being because he was God and man. He died for our sins, he rose again the third day, and if you'll believe in him, you'll be saved. So that's the message of salvation, the message of hope that emanates from Israel. And we better be thankful for the Jewish people and for Israel for bringing us the gospel, for bringing us Jesus, for bringing us the scriptures. Without that, we have nothing. So I hope you've enjoyed our special InGrace episode from here at Joppa, showing you Tel Aviv, showing you some of the sights in the beautiful city here. And we also would love for you to watch our other InGrace Israel Adventure shows and episodes on this channel. We also have another channel called InGrace Adventures that you can check out. If you want to help us create more content that teaches the Bible, you can go to ingrace.tv to do that. And there you'll find other resources. May God richly bless you and your family. Until next time.